It is 12 o'clock, and this is Action News at noon. Rick Williams along with Sarah Bloomquist. We're also joined in the studio by Matt O'Donnell. We have been on the air for several moments now, as watching just what is turning out to be just a devastating breaking news story here in the heart of Center City, Philadelphia. If you were just joining us, a building collapsed at 22nd and Market Streets. It happened just over an hour ago, around 10:45 this morning. And as you can imagine, it has been a scene of utter chaos as rescue units try to get to people who were believed to have been trapped or buried perhaps under the debris and under the rubble. 9 people have been rescued and taken to area hospitals. 2 people still trapped, we believe. And again, the investigation as to what exactly happened here unfolding. Time will tell whether or not these buildings were up to code. We heard from a photographer this morning who was simply walking down the block and noticed that the back of this structure looked to be dilapidated and unsafe, and he took a picture of it. So time will tell whether or not these buildings were safe to begin with, whether they were up to code, and exactly what might have caused this collapse. Let's go back to Action News reporter David Henry, who is on the scene on the ground with the very latest. David, what do you have?
Yeah, Rick, as you've been reporting, they still believe there are 2 people trapped inside that rubble. That's one of the reasons they asked the news helicopters to back off. They want to be able to hear voices coming from inside that debris. And you can see me behind me here. They are still working kind of frantically on the pile of debris that's towards the rear of the building. You still have a gaggle of firefighters back there pulling pieces away bit by bit. Now, just a few moments ago, they had a couple of pieces of heavy equipment in there digging up some large pieces of debris that had fallen onto 22nd Street. Further back, you can see where the firefighters are still actively and carefully going through that debris. They believe there are still 2 people in there. We're not sure how they know that. They do have detection dogs here, and they were also asking for quiet in the area so they could listen for voices. So they're concentrating right now on the back of the building. Earlier, there were a number of firefighters inside the remaining structure of the Salvation Army thrift store that is still standing. They have now left that scene and are concentrating towards the back of the building. They've got a couple of ambulances still on standby here. Stretchers are at the ready, but we still don't know what the status of the people who may be trapped in that building is at this point. We do know, as you've been reporting, that the building next door had been under demolition when this collapse happened. People familiar with the neighborhood will recognize that block as a block that had been deteriorating for some time. It was the site of the old Forum Theater, and that had been sold recently. A developer had bought the property, and they were in the process of demolishing the old theater, and it looks like that is what collapsed during the process of demolition, taking down with it what that structure was behind the thrift store and a part of a couple of 2-story, actually 3-story buildings towards the back, a couple of old row homes, it looks like. But looking inside those buildings, the row home part of the structure, it looks like they've been unoccupied for some time. The walls are lacking paint, and there's no sign of any kind of life that had been going on in that part of the building. So it appears that everybody who might have been trapped in this rubble was either in the thrift store or that commercial building behind the thrift store. We're not clear how many yet. They believe there may be 2 still in there, and that's why they are rather carefully and delicately pulling apart every piece of debris they can get their hands on. Rick?